chosen ones. These pains unlock your huge power, but you don't know it yet. There's a kind of pain that doesn't just hurt, it awakens. It cuts so deep, it doesn't leave a scar. It leaves a signal, a vibration that echoes into your future, reshaping everything you thought you knew about yourself. If you're here, it's because you felt that kind of pain. Maybe recently, maybe your whole life. And maybe you've been trying to make sense of it for years. But what if I told you that these exact wounds, the ones you hide, the ones you carry in silence, the ones that made you question your worth, are actually keys? Not metaphorically. Literally. They are energetic keys that unlock the kind of power most people will never even come close to discovering in themselves. Not because they're not worthy, but because they never understood what their pain was trying to give them. But you're different. You're one of the chosen. And I'm not saying that to make you feel superior. I'm saying that because if you're still listening to this, still watching, still resonating, then something in your spirit remembers, even if your mind forgot. Let's start with the pain of being misunderstood. You felt it, haven't you? That ache of trying to explain yourself to people who just can't or won't see the real you. Maybe it started when you were a child. Maybe it's still happening today. You express something vulnerable, something raw, and it's met with silence or worse, judgment. Over time, you learn to shut down, to edit yourself, to wear masks. But here's what no one tells you, that pain was never about rejection, it was a trigger to activate your sight. Because the chosen ones aren't meant to be understood by the masses. They're meant to see what the masses cannot. Every time you were dismissed, every time your truth was minimized, the universe was whispering, see deeper. Look beyond the surface. Trust your inner knowing. And if you listened, even just once, it began. The awakening of your spiritual vision. The ability to feel energy in a room. To read people without words. To sense when something is off. That's not just empathy. It's not just sensitivity. It's technology. Spiritual technology. And you earned it through the pain of being unseen.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Now let's talk about the pain of isolation. The loneliness that follows you even in crowded rooms. The feeling that no matter how many people love you, no one really gets you. It's not because you're broken. It's not because something's wrong with you. It's because your energy vibrates at a frequency that doesn't yet exist in your environment. You are a carrier of a new code, and that code can't be fully mirrored back to you until others awaken to it. So the isolation you feel, it's sacred. It's intentional. It's a cocoon. And if you can sit in it, really sit in it, without trying to numb it or escape it, it begins to transmute. It becomes a forge, a place where you start hearing your own soul clearly without interference. That's where your inner voice strengthens, where your intuition sharpens, where you learn to trust yourself above the noise. And that's the second great power that pain unlocks, sovereignty. The ability to stand alone, not from ego, but from clarity, to walk your path without needing confirmation, to hold your truth even when it's inconvenient. But the one that hits the hardest, the pain that unravels you to your core, is the pain of betrayal. It doesn't matter if it came from friends, lovers, mentors, or even family. That moment when someone you trusted turns against you, abandons you, or reveals a hidden agenda, it shatters something inside. But what if the shattering is the point? What if the betrayal wasn't sent to punish you, but to strip away your illusions? Because here's the raw truth. Every betrayal is a mirror showing you where you gave your power away, where you outsourced your worth, where you made someone else the source of your safety, your identity, your peace. And when that mirror breaks, what's left is the third great gift, power reclamation. The realization that no one can truly betray you unless you've handed them something sacred that was never meant to be theirs. And when you take it back not with vengeance, but with wisdom, you become indestructible. Not hard, not closed off, but sovereign in a way that no one can shake. So, let me ask you something you may have never considered. What if the very things you've been trying to heal, avoid, or forget are actually the foundations of your destiny? What if your deepest wounds were the exact blueprints for your highest power? What if the universe isn't punishing you but initiating you? This isn't spiritual fluff. This is spiritual architecture. You were built differently for a reason. The pain didn't come to break you. It came to remind you, to wake up the codes that were dormant in you. Codes of perception, codes of protection, codes of alignment. And when you stop running from the pain, when you face it, embrace it, and extract the truth hidden inside it, you begin to mutate. You stop reacting from the wound, and you start moving from the wisdom. That's the moment you shift from victim to vessel, from seeker to portal, from wounded to weaponized light. But most people never get there. They stop at the pain. They build identities around it. They wear it like armor. But you're here because something in you is ready to go further. To see the pain not as the end of the story, but as the beginning of your activation. Now that you've started remembering, the question becomes, what will you do with this knowing? The hidden energy inside emotional pain and how to turn it into supernatural power. There's something buried deep inside your emotional pain that almost no one talks about, but once you see it, you'll never unsee it again. Emotional pain isn't just something to heal, process, or escape. It's not just a byproduct of trauma or loss. It's raw energy waiting to be activated. Inside every heartbreak, every moment of grief, every wave of deep sadness or rage, there is untapped spiritual voltage. Not metaphorical energy, actual, usable, energetic force. And the reason why so many of the chosen ones suffer so deeply is because you are carrying more of this energy than most. Your emotions don't just pass through you, they crack you open. And that cracking isn't weakness. It's an invitation. Because inside that emotional intensity is a power that can warp reality, bend timelines, and elevate consciousness if you know how to work with it. Let's go to the core of it. Emotional pain is energy that has been blocked, misdirected, or suppressed. But underneath that blockage is a truth so potent it's threatening to your ego and to the illusion of the world around you. That's why it hurts. That's why it shakes you. Because it's trying to awaken something dormant. I think about it. When have you grown the most in your life? Was it during ease and comfort, or during deep emotional upheaval? You already know the answer. Pain is a portal, but only if you step through it consciously. When you sit with your pain not to fix it, but to listen to it, you begin to extract the frequency inside it. And that frequency is often the exact medicine you've been searching for. So how do you turn emotional pain into supernatural power? You begin by feeling it fully. Not analyzing, not labeling, not spiritualizing, just feeling. The body knows how to alchemize emotion, but only if you stop interfering. When you suppress pain, it fragments. It gets stored in the body as tension, illness, or emotional numbness. But when you allow the pain to move through you, something else happens. The energy locked within it starts to rise. It begins to flow. And as it flows, it clears blocks in your system. It opens up your intuitive channels. It sharpens your perception. Suddenly you begin to feel more, see more, know more. Not because you read it in a book, but because you embodied it. Your pain contains information. It carries a signature. When you were betrayed, the pain wasn't just about the person who hurt you, it was about the part of you that abandoned your inner knowing. When you were heartbroken, it wasn't just about loss, it was about remembering your own capacity to love without limits. When you felt invisible, It wasn't just about the people who didn't see you, it was a call to see yourself. And inside each of those emotional earthquakes is a unique energetic pattern, a code, a lesson that once integrated becomes a gift. That gift can become your intuition, your art, your message, your frequency, but only if you stop trying to escape it. Let me ask you something. What if the emotional intensity you've been trying to get rid of is actually the fuel for your soul's evolution? What if your sensitivity isn't a flaw, but a spiritual superconductor? What if the depth of your feeling is what allows you to touch realms that others can't access? Because here's the deeper truth: pain lowers the walls between dimensions. It strips away the masks. It burns through distractions. It places you in direct contact with your essence. That's why in your most painful moments you've also felt the presence of something greater. A stillness, a knowing, a whisper. Maybe you didn't understand it then, but that was your soul stepping forward. That was your higher self saying, "Stay with this. There's gold here." And when you finally stop resisting, when you enter the pain with reverence instead of fear, something miraculous happens. You begin to absorb the energy. You become stronger, not harder, softer, but sharper, more open, but less naive. You begin to move through the world with a kind of spiritual gravity. People feel it in your presence. They don't know why, but they sense it, that you've been somewhere they haven't, that you've died and come back different, that you've touched the edge of something real and brought back a code that they're still searching for. This is how pain becomes power, not by avoiding it, not by numbing it, but by alchemizing it. And this is what the chosen ones are here to master. You didn't come into this world to be unshaken. You came to be transformed, and through that transformation to transform others just by existing in your truth. So now I ask you, what have you been running from emotionally that might actually be your greatest asset? What if your pain isn't in the way but is the way? Why the universe tests chosen ones with pain before granting them power? There's a reason the chosen ones suffer before they rise. A reason why your path has been filled with more heartache, more betrayal, more spiritual confusion than most people can even begin to understand. And it's not because you're cursed. It's not because you did something wrong in a past life or because you're broken. It's because the universe is preparing you in the most precise, sacred, and intense way possible. The universe does not give true power casually. It does not hand over reality-shifting energy to those who haven't been forged by fire. And that fire for us is pain. But not just any kind of pain, the kind of pain that breaks illusions, that strips away every false identity, that leaves you raw, naked, and questioning everything. That's the kind of pain the universe uses to test the chosen ones, not out of cruelty but out of cosmic mercy. Because only those who have been hollowed out can hold the weight of divine power without misusing it. Think about it. How do you know the value of peace unless you've known war inside yourself? How do you know the stillness of presence unless you've sat in the chaos of anxiety, fear, and fragmentation? How do you hold compassion for others unless you've been on your knees begging for someone, anyone, to understand your pain? It's only when you've truly suffered that you gain the capacity to carry power responsibly. The universe isn't testing your strength to break you, it's testing your integrity. Because power without depth becomes manipulation. Influence without soul becomes ego. And the chosen ones are not here to dominate. We are here to heal, to reveal, to elevate. But before we're allowed to do that on a large scale, we must be purified. And that purification comes through pain. The universe doesn't test you with comfort. It tests you with silence, with abandonment, with betrayal, with the kind of pain that no one sees, no one validates, and no one saves you from. Why? Because that's where your real self is revealed, when no one is clapping, when no one is watching, when the prayers feel unanswered. The pain of that moment is not the universe turning its back on you, It's the universe saying, show me who you really are when nothing is working. And if you can still choose truth in that moment, if you can still choose love, still choose alignment, still choose to keep going when everything tells you to quit, that's when the gate opens. That's when the power begins to stir within you, not as a reward, but as a natural consequence of who you become. Let me tell you something sacred. No one who has walked in true power got there easily. Every prophet, every mystic, every spiritual master was tested. Isolation, rejection, exile, doubt, darkness, not because they were weak, but because they were being calibrated. Their pain wasn't punishment, it was preparation. And if you're going through it right now, if your life feels like it's falling apart, if you're wondering why you're being stripped of everything you thought you needed, it's because your soul is being restructured to hold more light. The old you cannot carry the next level of your purpose. Something has to die. And that death, that sacred dismantling, is the proof that power is coming. But here's where it gets real. You have a choice. Pain doesn't automatically make you powerful. It gives you the invitation. But you have to accept it. You can let the pain define you, or you can let it refine you. You can build walls to protect yourself, or you can build wisdom to guide others. You can collapse under the weight of it, or you can rise with a deeper understanding of who you are and why you're here. That's the test. Not can you survive, but can you transform? Not will you avoid suffering, but what will you carry back from it? Because if you truly understood what the pain was preparing you for, you would thank it. Not because it felt good, but because it broke the shell around your soul. It forced you to see. It made you remember. And now you are different. Not better than anyone, but more aligned, more awake, more sovereign. And that's what real power is. It's not dominance, it's energetic clarity. It's the ability to walk into a situation and hold such a steady, grounded presence that distortion can't survive. It's the ability to feel everything and still choose truth. It's the wisdom to lead without needing to be followed. That's the power that's coming for you. That's what the pain has been unlocking all along. So now I ask you, soul to soul, what if your tests weren't obstacles but initiations? What if everything that's been taken from you was never meant to last because it couldn't carry the frequency of where you're going? What if your pain was never the end of your story, but the sacred beginning of your becoming? The mastery of pain, how chosen ons transcend suffering and shape reality. There's a moment in every chosen one's journey when the pain stops being the enemy and becomes the ally. Not because you've learned to enjoy it, but because you've learned to listen to it. When you cross that threshold, something irreversible happens inside you. You stop trying to escape the fire, and instead, you become it. You realize suffering was never meant to define you, it was meant to refine you. It was the teacher that stripped away everything false, until only truth remained. And now, with nothing left to lose, you begin to create, but not from ego, not from need, from alignment, from presence, from power. This is mastery, not the absence of pain, but the ability to transcend it, to feel it without being consumed, to extract the wisdom without internalizing the wound. And from that place you begin to shape reality, not because you're special, but because you're clear, because your frequency is no longer distorted by fear, doubt, or the constant need to be understood. You've seen the worst of yourself. You faced the void, and you didn't run. That alone makes you magnetic. That alone makes you a force that cannot be ignored. You walk into rooms differently now. Not louder but heavier. Not arrogant but anchored. People feel it. They feel you. And here's the wild part: when you stop resisting your pain, you stop resisting your power. Because they're two sides of the same coin. The deeper you go into your wounds, the more energy you liberate from them. That energy becomes clarity, creativity, command. And not just over your internal world, but your external one too. You begin to notice how your thoughts shape experiences, how your emotions shift timelines, how your very presence influences outcomes. That's not coincidence. That's spiritual technology at work. You are no longer just surviving reality, you're writing it. But this level of mastery demands discipline. It requires you to stay awake when others numb out, to stay soft when the world tells you to harden, to stay rooted in truth, even when it costs you everything. That's not easy. That's why so few make it. But you've already come this far. You've already survived the worst. The worst was never meant to destroy you, it was meant to qualify you, to prepare you for the weight of your own destiny. And now you carry something that can't be taught, something that can't be taken. Embodied wisdom, lived truth, a presence that transmits healing just by existing. This is how chosen ones change the world, not through noise, but through resonance. Not by convincing, but by being. When you walk in your full alignment, the universe reorganizes around you. People shift, systems crack, hidden things rise to the surface. That's the gift of your energy. It's not passive, it's catalytic. But only when you're fully in it. No more shrinking, no more dimming, no more waiting for permission to be who you already are. So let me ask you one last time, what if your pain wasn't a detour from your purpose, but the exact path to it? What if every scar was a map? What if the very thing you thought disqualified you was what actually qualified you to carry light in places others fear to enter? You've made it through the fire. Now carry the flame. The world has waited long enough. It's time.